Chapter 10. The cost of being heard. The pasture offered no favors, no root to catch, no bend to hide behind, no bad step waiting to punish the other side. It spread under the gray dawn and made every man crossing it honest about how small he was. Bram hated honesty by the seventh pace. The pasture rose gently toward the ridge road. Frost silvered the grass in thin patches where the sun had not reached. Old cart tracks cut the middle hard and shallow. No stream, no spray, no fallen trunk, no willow shade. The nearest stones were fist-sized and useless unless a person had time to build a wall, which they did not. Ahead, the alphastic line waited at the ridge break, not a great army. A blade screen, archers tucked near the old boundary wall, and one figure in pale gray standing where the road widened between two low banks. Tall, still, a staff of dark wood planted lightly by his boot.
The Tharian is here.
She did not say the name loudly. Bram heard it anyway. Fear made some sounds larger.
You know him?
I know of him.
Bad of him?
Enough of that.
The Vandmark advance moved in staggered lines as ordered. Saren and Kale stood in the forward blade screen, Marith 3 paces right, Alira close enough to Bram that he could see the damp at the ends of her hair. Joran and Dane stayed behind with the message runners, though Dane had argued, until Var threatened to assign him to latrine trench inspection for the rest of his natural life. The first spell came without drama. Letharian lifted 2 fingers from the staff. Light gathered along the grain. Not bright at first, more like morning deciding to sharpen. His lips moved once. The air between the ridge and the Vandmark line folded. Saren stepped to meet it. Her sword caught the front edge and screamed. Not rang, screamed. Kale was there a breath later, blade under hers. Marith braced from the other side. The spell spread around them like water finding rocks. It did not break. It pressed. Men, behind the blade screen, dropped to knees. One cried out. The grass blackened in a wide strip, before the steel finally grounded enough of the force to let the line breathe. No one charged after that. For all Harker's dawn words, for all the green pins pushed neatly over black ink, the first real pressure made the army remember it had bodies. Shields came up too high. Archers lost the rhythm of their draw. A blessed caster from the chapel detachment began a prayer and stopped halfway through. His breath had broken. Orin's voice cut across the field, steady and ugly with effort.
Dress the line. Left file, close, runners low.
The line obeyed by pieces. Bram saw the work of it then. Not courage as a shout, but men convincing their feet to stay where every nerve asked them to leave. It should have made the army seem stronger. Instead, it made the field seem hungry. Bram's hands were locked on the axe. His chest had gone tight. Breath caught high where the fear wanted to climb. Alira's lesson dragged him lower, out of his shoulder and into his feet.
Not narrow.
No, not narrow.
The advance horn sounded once. They moved. Bram watched for a door. Watching was work. Alira had put it in him. If he stopped watching, he would run, and running would get someone killed. The Tharian's staff was longer than the Ford caster's wand. Darker wood, polished, until the grain looked like water under ice. No visible knot, no obvious wrap. The prayer marks ran in spirals, not straight lines, turning around the staff so Bram's eye could not find where stress wanted to gather. Too far, too clean. The next spell came low. It struck the grass before the blade screen and ran through the frost. White fire raced along the ground, not burning upward, until it found boots. The front line scattered. A soldier Bram did not know fell hard, both hands clawing at his greaves. Saren cut down, blade point into earth, and dragged the spell sideways with a sound like tearing cloth. She saved the man from losing his legs. She could not save the shape of the line.
Hold the line!
Bar shouted somewhere behind them. Bram looked for water. None. Looked for slope. Too gentle. Looked for loose stone. Too small. Looked for any place Letharian would need to step wrong. The mage had chosen ground that asked nothing of him. Bram moved left, toward a shallow cart rut. Alira caught his sleeve.
No, not the rut.
It dips.
It does not cover.
If Saren pulls the next one narrow, I can cross 6 paces.
You need 30.
He knew that. Knowing did not help. His body had counted every pace between himself and the staff the moment he saw it. The army tried to make those paces smaller with bodies. Archers ran forward in pairs and dropped, behind low shields. One blessed caster, the same boy whose prayer had broken at the first spell, found enough breath to throw a pale ward across the left file. It shimmered for 3 heartbeats, before Letharian's next pressure folded it inward like wet cloth. The caster fell to his knees with blood under his nose, alive only after 2 shieldmen dragged him back by his belt. Harker sent a runner to shift the advance right. The runner made it 8 steps. Not dead. Worse, alive and screaming with his boot pinned in ground that had become glass around his ankle. Bram took 1 step toward him. Alira's hand tightened on his sleeve.
You can't reach him before the next line.
Someone has to.
Someone with a shield lime. Not you alone.
Kale and Marith moved. Before Bram could answer, 2 blades and 3 shields bending toward the runner. Saren caught the next narrow spell hard enough that the sound made every tooth in Bram's mouth ache. And they reached him. They saved him. It took 6 people and cost a shieldman half his hand. That was what 30 paces meant here. Letharian lifted his hand again. This time he looked at Bram, not at the line. Not at the officers. At the boy with the axe held too tightly in a pasture that had no use for him. The spell came like a thrown road. Bram hit the ground. Before Alira pulled him there. Heat passed over his back, flattening grass in a straight lane from ridge to cart track. A wagon shield behind him cracked in 2. Someone screamed. Dirt jumped into his mouth. He pushed up. Alira pushed him down.
Do not get up, Bram.
I can get closer if he keeps aiming at me.
That is not a plan, Bram.
It's a door.
It is a grey for the view.
Anger flared. Good. Anger was warmer than helplessness. Around them the battle narrowed into fragments too sharp to hold together. Saren took another line and staggered. Kale caught the next edge alone and paid for it with a scream he turned into a snarl before it finished. Marith dragged a wounded archer by the collar while still watching Letharian's staff. Harker's blade screen bent back 3 paces. Then 4, leaving dark grass where men had stood too long under heat. Everything useful Bram knew waited on the other side of distance. Grain, knots, roots, leverage. The field gave him none of it. He surged up and ran 3 steps before the next spell hit the space ahead. Not where he was. Where he would have been if he was the kind of fool Letharian had measured him to be. Bram stopped so hard his knees almost buckled. The spell tore the cart rut apart. Dirt and frozen grass burst upward. The ground he had chosen as an answer became a shallow, smoking scar. Litharian had not only denied the door, he had seen Bram reaching for it. Bram's breath came wrong. Line. Breath. Focus. Footing. Attention. Litharian had all of them, and Bram had grass. The Van Mark line bent. Not broke. Bent. Oren's voice carried from the rear, ordering reserve shields left. Harker shouted for the blade screen to hold long enough for archers to move. Arrows rose and fell short under a sudden side gust Bram did not trust. Enemy archers answered from the wall. Alira stood between Bram and the ridge.
Fall back, Bram.
No, I am not going back.
Bram, listen to me.
He hated the way she said it. Not command, not scolding. As if she had already seen the shape of what wanting would cost. Another spell gathered around Litharian's staff. This one did not point at the line. It pointed at the message runners. Joran was there. Dane was there, useless wrist and all. Bram moved. Before sense could catch him, he ran not toward Litharian but across the lane, toward the runners, toward people he could still reach. The spell shifted with him, too fast, too calm. It would hit the space between them and split the retreat orders. Before they could move, Bram threw himself forward, axe out as if iron could argue with light. Alira saw. She moved. Before he could stop her, Alira crossed the spell lane like she had been born in the space between breaths. Her sword came up with the point angled down. Left foot cutting into the torn ground, shoulder quiet the way she had made Bram practice, until his muscles hated her. The spell hit her blade. For one heartbeat, she held it. Light crawled along the steel. The inscription near her guard flared white. Her boots slid 2 handspans through frost and dirt. Bram saw her teeth bare, saw both hands tighten, saw the spell bend just enough that it missed Joran and the other runners by the width of a cartwheel.
Move, now.
Joran moved. Dane moved. Bram did not. He was still reaching for her when the second pressure came. Litharian did not repeat himself. The new spell was wider, lower. Not a line a sword could catch cleanly. It rolled through the broken ground in a pale sheet, folding frost into steam. Alira saw it and changed her stance, but changing stance took time, and time on open ground belonged to the man with distance. Bram lunged. His fingers brushed the back of her coat. She drove her elbow into his chest hard enough to knock him sideways into the torn cart rut. Pain burst through his bruised ribs. The spell sheet passed where his throat had been. Alira took the edge of it across her side. The sound she made was small. Too small. Too small. Bram scrambled up, mud under his nails, axe forgotten for one breath in the grass. Behind him, Alira was still standing. Somehow standing. Her sword point had bitten into the ground, both hands on the hilt, head bowed like she was listening to something under the earth. For a moment the field narrowed to the things Bram could name. Her left boot had twisted in the rut. The leather wrap on her sword hilt had darkened where her palm bled. Rainwater ran down the blade and dripped from the point into burned grass. Her coat had torn under the ribs, and the cloth did not move right when she breathed. He could name all of it. Naming fixed none of it.
Alira?
She turned enough to look at him. Her face was calm. That was when Bram became afraid in a way the battlefield had not managed.
Down your legs.
Then her knees folded. Bram reached her as the line broke around them. Noise returned all at once. Oren shouting retreat by sections. Saren screaming a blade order. Voice ragged, Kale calling for shields, Marith cursing in Elvish so sharp the words sounded like glass, arrows snapping into grass, men falling, men getting up. Falling was not permission to stay. Bram slid to his knees beside Alira and pressed both hands to the wound. Hands needed work or they became useless things. He had packed cuts before, not soldier cuts, not wounds opened by holy light and distance. Village cuts, axe slips, saw teeth, a hunter's calf torn by a boar's tusk in late snow. Men in Alderfall swore and bled and told everyone watching they were fine, until someone older tied cloth hard enough to make them curse honestly. Pressure first. Elevation if you could. Keep the person angry, keep them talking, keep them in their body. A village survived by refusing to let small disasters become names carved into winter boards. Brom knew these things. He pressed harder. He tried to find an edge to the wound. A place where cloth could matter. A problem shaped like problems he knew. There was no edge. The spell had not cut like steel. It had opened heat through cloth and flesh in a way his hands could not understand. Blood came anyway. Bodies were bodies. Beneath it, something worse had happened. Her breathing hitched shallow and wrong. Each breath pulled through a door that no longer fit its frame.
Healer.
The word vanished under horns and spell cracks. A runner glanced back, saw them, and kept moving, orders holding him by the spine. Bram wanted to hate him. Could not. Alira had just saved runners. Hating one for running would make no sense, and grief did not care about sense. But some part of Alira's training still stood between Bram and the easiest ugliness.
No, Alira.
The sound came out flat, like a wedge driven into rotten wood. Alira's sword lay beside her. One of her hands still held the grip. Her fingers did not know they could let go.
Hold this,
Bram said, though he was the one holding. Blood warmed between his fingers. Too warm for the cold morning.
Hold. You're good at holding.
Her eyes found his. He waited for a lesson. A correction. A dry remark about breathing too loudly. Her mouth moved. No sound came. He bent closer stupidly, as if hearing better could mend what light had opened.
Bram, listen to her.
He ignored her. Alira's fingers twitched against the sword grip. Not reaching for him. Finding the hilt. Duty even now, or habit, or both. Her thumb moved once along the guard. Bram knew that motion. She had done it on picket duty when the soldier with the blue lantern muttered realm eyes. She had done it under the lean-to, before saying her village had once been hers. She had done it before correcting his shoulder. As if steel could steady what words refused to touch, now the movement was smaller than rain. It was still hers.
Don't do that. Look at me.
She did. For one breath, he saw the lean-to rain. The white-barked grove. A brother singing badly on purpose. A hand touching his shoulder where fear climbed. He saw every small thing she had given him. Small things were all war had allowed time for. Then her eyes changed. They did not close. They simply emptied. The battlefield kept moving. Bram did not. Someone grabbed him from behind. He struck backward with one elbow and heard a grunt.
Alder, stop.
Kyl's voice, not polished now, not noble. Frightened and furious.
She's gone.
No, she is not.
Kale's arm locked across his chest.
She's gone and the line is going.
The words should have been impossible to misunderstand. Bram misunderstood them anyway. Gone meant moved. Gone meant carried. Gone meant somewhere. Behind a screen with healers, cursing after someone touched her sword without asking. Gone meant anything except the still shape in the frost wearing Elira's face and refusing to become Elira again. He twisted hard enough that Chael's grip slipped. Saren hit him across the shoulder with the flat of her sword. Not hard enough to injure, hard enough to shock.
Live now.
He hated her for that. His body obeyed. Elira had used almost the same words in different shapes too many times for it not to know them. Bram twisted anyway. He would have bitten. He would have broken fingers. He would have done anything except leave the body on the frost. Marith appeared on Elira's other side. Her face was empty in a way that made Bram stop fighting for half a breath. She knelt, took Elira's sword hand and uncurled the fingers one by one. Not fast. Not gentle exactly. Precise. Her lips moved around words Bram could not hear. Then Marith looked at him.
Carry what she saved.
I can't carry her?
The question came out like he was younger than 15. Marith's jaw tightened. Behind them, a spell struck the ground close enough to shower dirt over Elira's coat. Chael dragged Bram again. This time Saren joined him, one burned glove gripping Bram's collar. He fought, until his boots found no purchase, until his hands left red marks in the grass, until Elira was 3 paces away. 5, 10, and still not getting up. The retreat horn blew. Orderly. Someone shouted it again and again through the smoke.
Orderly retreat. Orderly by sections.
Bram hated the word so much it filled his mouth. Orderly did not mean kind. Orderly did not mean anyone had chosen well. Orderly meant a wounded archer got 2 men under his arms instead of being dragged by the collar. It meant the last cart of bandages did not overturn in the ditch. It meant a boy with a split cheek kept blowing the horn, though blood ran over the mouthpiece. It meant the line bent instead of shattered, and bending saved people Bram did not know well enough to love. That was the cruelest part. Elira had died inside something that still worked. Orderly was boots over churned frost. Orderly was Joran sobbing while still carrying messages. Orderly was Dane firing arrows one-handed at shapes he could barely see. Orderly was Saren's sword catching another line of light while her face stayed wet for more than rain. Orderly was Marith walking backward with Elira's sword in her left hand. Elira's right hand would never hold it again. Bram stumbled when the pasture dipped. His arms wanted to fly wide for balance, but he forced his weight low. The last correction had nowhere else to live. At the fallback ditch, healers pulled wounded. Behind canvas screens, officers counted squads. Scribes wrote names with damp ink. Bram stood with blood drying between his fingers and watched a clerk ask Marith for Elira's full rank. The ditch had been dug for water, not grief. Water would have known where to go. Grief pooled in useless places. In the hollow of Bram's throat, under Saren's burned glove where her hand would not stop shaking. In the space beside Marith where Elira's sword should have hung and did not. Dane tried to stand from the runner line when he saw Bram. His broken wrist was strapped to his chest, his face streaked with mud. Joran caught his sleeve and held him back. Bram saw Dane's mouth form a question and then fail to ask it. No one wanted the answer carried by the boy with blood on his hands. Chael stood near the ditch wall with both hands braced on his knees. His sword lay point down in the mud. Forgotten for once. He was breathing like he had run all the way from his father's house to this ditch and found the door locked. When Bram looked at him, Chael straightened too quickly, grabbed his sword, and tried to become a noble again. It did not hold.
I had her.
Bram did not know whether he meant the retreat, the body, or the moment. Before all of it,
No one had anything.
Kale flinched as if the answer had been worse than blame.
Alira Thorn.
Circumstances?
Meredith did not answer. The clerk looked up, impatient and afraid of being impatient.
For the report.
Oren came behind him, face gray.
Killed during withdrawal action.
Bram turned. Oren's eyes met his and did not look away. The clerk wrote it down. Killed during withdrawal action. The hurl-less. The horn sounded again from the ridge. The army moved. Armies moved. The ink dried. Ink did not care. Bram stood in the ditch with empty hands and hated every clean word left in the world.